If you've raised children in Kingston, you probably already know about the great work being done by the Kingston Youth Sports Organization and their dedicated volunteers. For anyone new in town, or those unaware of the breadth of programming offered by the KYSO, today we'll be sitting down with Matt Snyder, president of the Kingston Youth Sports Organization, to discuss the vital role they play in creating high-quality, affordable opportunities for our youngsters. Matt, thanks for joining us. I know we've spent some time trying to line up schedules to bring you in, but I'm thrilled to start the new year with Kingston Youth Sports, with you. I know a lot of the folks at home who have kids who've gone through Kingston Youth Sports probably know a lot about the work that you do, the work that your volunteers do, but this is a great opportunity to introduce your work with everybody else. So before we get into exactly what it is that the KYSO does, can you just introduce yourself and let us know how you got involved with the Kingston Youth Sports Organization?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me, number one. I am currently the president of Kingston Youth Sports Organization, KYSO for short. I've been involved in sports all my life as a child growing up, coaching into my adult years, still coaching, and now working with the KYSO. So it's been very rewarding. We've seen lots of kids go through the organization onto success. So thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and spread the word.
Great, and I'm sure you've seen success both on and off the field. I mean, I know when I was a kid, I was involved in soccer, I was involved in baseball, basketball, and you know, I think it certainly does a great job of shaping kids on the field, but also, you know, setting them up for success off the field. So can you speak to sort of the benefits of sports for kids and you know, why KYSO plays such a vital role in the community? Yes,
as you mentioned, I'm a big advocate for sports as well too. I think it teaches kids a lot of things about life that they need moving forward. You know, teamwork, the ability to be part of a team, how to win, how to lose gracefully, you know, how to respect rules, how to respect coaches and peers, etc. So a lot of those lessons that you learn in organized sports or activities in general, you can use moving forward, and it's very rewarding to then see kids who have gone through the program and then they come back to volunteer. So it's nice to see.
Thanks. And is that what got you involved, you know, having been there as an athlete and seeing the benefit for kids?
Sure. Well, I was inspired. I have a couple older nieces that went through various sports within KYSO and saw the benefits there. And then as my daughter started to get into organized sports as she grew up, it was kind of a natural transition. I've known many of the volunteers and parents who have come before me and volunteered their time. So I felt like it was my time to do the same, and very glad that I got involved.
Yeah, and you know, as a parent whose son is involved with KYSO, I'm certainly very grateful for the work that you do and the volunteers do, because I know my son's as content, you know, sitting in front of a TV all day as he is doing anything else, and we really try to mitigate that at home. But you know, playing ball in the backyard is great, but actually being able to do that with peers, being able to do that in an organized setting is huge, and it does pull kids away from the TVs, Absolutely. From computers, from computer games, and you know, whatever we can do to limit his screen time is appreciated, especially if, you know, we can see him doing that with his peers. It's huge.
Yeah, it's a big challenge these days, balancing that outdoor versus indoor time. And as you mentioned, we like to provide that structure and that balance to offer plenty of programs for kids who want to get involved in those organized sports.
Great. And so I'm familiar with the baseball program. That's what my son did this past year. It was the first year that he did it. He loved it, and now he's online looking at what other offerings you guys have, sure. Believe it or not. But for anybody who's at home watching who hasn't had a child go through the program or who hasn't been to the website lately, can you just run us through what programs KYSO offers?
Yes, absolutely. So we cover anything that involves a field in Kingston. I'll say that's the easy way. Okay. That's the easy way to say. So Kingston Youth Soccer, Kingston Youth Baseball and Softball, Silver Lake Youth Football, Silver Lake Cheer, as well as Kingston Lacrosse all fall under our purview.
So there's something for everyone.
Something for everybody. You can find an activity if you so desire. Certainly, yeah.
And my understanding is there's a very close working relationship between the KYSO and Kingston Rec. Can you just explain what that is and how those two organizations work together for the benefit of Kingston youth?
Sure. Yeah, it wouldn't exist without the Kingston Rec, and we have a wonderful relationship relationship with them, led by the Director of Recreation, Sue Woodworth, and she's been wonderful to our organization in supporting us and helping us. Our goal is to lower user fees for families such as ourselves. Sports these days can be very expensive, right? So we want to lower user fees, and we want to keep the facilities and the fields as nice as possible. So those are our goals, and we wouldn't be able to do that without the help of the rec in the town.
That's great. And you know, I think a limiting factor for a lot of folks is often the cost. You know, gear is expensive. You know, field time, ice time, things like that are expensive when your kids get into sports. How does the KYSO generate funds and offset those costs for families who want to get involved?
Yeah, so we're a non-for-profit. We are 100% volunteer-led, so our main source of income is certainly fundraisers. So we run a few major fundraisers per year. Our biggest fundraiser is our KYSO golf tournament that happens in the summer, and that's a blast, and we have a lot of folks show up to that and support it. It is run by a bevy of volunteers who, all the volunteers within KYSO, we wouldn't be able to do anything without them, but specifically for that golf tournament, it's a lot of work, and they do such a wonderful job. We have a cross-country road race, which happens in September on the Monday of Labor Day, which has really increased over the last few years, and we've created a family-friendly event. So it's a road race, but it's really a kids race, and families are encouraged to come and participate with the children. So it's really nice. We have for the first year, we have a St. Patrick's Day party coming up on March 14th of this year, so in just a little while's time, and that is a night out for parents, right?
And that's going to be at the Jones River Trading Post?
Jones River Trading Post. You can get your tickets online at kingstonyouthsports.org. You can do it via Facebook or via Twitter. You can handle it any of those ways. But so that'll be the first fundraiser of this type we're having. And then there's various events that we have throughout the year. The Cold Turkey Softball Tournament, which happens typically right around Thanksgiving, as well as a Horseshoe Tournament, which normally happens in October. And both of those events are run by, they might get angry at me for saying this, but older KYSO volunteers whose kids have already aged out, and they still find the time to run these events and give back to the community. And so I'm just one person in a long line of volunteers, and still seeing all of these folks that are giving their time back to the community when their kids are long gone is very inspiring.
And I think that raises an important point. I know it's easy to put yourself out there as a volunteer when you can see the direct benefit to your child or to your family, but you don't have to be a parent of a KYSO athlete to support the organization.
Not at all, no. In fact, we've seen a lot of folks that, as I mentioned before, are coming back after their kids have aged out. Some folks are coming knowing nothing about the organization, but have seen an advertisement and say, hey, how can I help? Which is wonderful. I think Kingston is a great community. We have a lot of nice people here who are willing to help. Sometimes they just need some direction as far as where to go. How can I help? Mm-hmm. And so we're here to provide that.
It's great. And that information as well is available online?
Yeah, everything's available on our website. We have a calendar of events. We have fundraising opportunities, volunteer opportunities, so you can go to kingstonyouthsports.org and get all that information.
Now, do sponsorships, are there sponsorship opportunities outside of these events if an individual or a business wanted to put their name out there and show that they are a supporter of the KYSO?
Absolutely. So we have a sign program that was created a while back and is picking up steam now again. And most of the signs are displayed down at the Opachinski complex, which is our main site where most of the fields are, along with our concession stand and whatnot. It houses football, soccer, lacrosse, baseball, softball, and cheer. So all of our organizations use that facility. So the sign program essentially allows local businesses, to get their name out there. They're displayed very easily, so you're seeing them every time you're driving in and out. Yep. And usually that happens for families at least 1, 2, 3, 4 times a week with practices and games. So again, that information is on our website. You can contact me directly. I'd be happy to point you in the right direction as well.
Fantastic. And as important as it is to raise funds, I know you guys do a great job of using those funds responsibly. If a family has a financial hardship, if a family can't afford, for maybe their second or third child to be going through sports because, again, these things are costly. Are there scholarship opportunities? Are there ways that families who may need some support can get their kids involved as athletes?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. So our goal is to never turn a child away. We want the kids to be as involved as they want to be in sports. So we do have a financial hardship program that is very easy to, I say, apply, but it's a very easy process. And you hit the nail on the head. For one child, it's a lot often, right? But now when you talk about a second and third child, it adds up very, very quickly. So we don't want to turn any child away, so we will accept any and all applications for financial assistance. Additionally, we actually offer annually between 2 and 4 scholarships for graduating seniors who have been through the program as well, that are going on to college. And so that again is an essay. You have to write an essay. We review the essays and then choose out of that pile. But it's nice to be able to give somebody a little leg up as they're heading to college, because we all know what the costs of college are these days. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. And you mentioned that you've seen kids go through the program and come back as volunteers. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's that like? I mean, it must be a great feeling as a parent, as now an administrator and a coach, to see a kid, swinging a bat one day and then either coaching or volunteering in another capacity the next.
It is. It's nice to see, and again, it's all about the giving spirit. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of nice families here in Kingston who have raise their kids to give back to the community. This is just one of the many ways that people do so. But when you see a child who's gone through the program, then as you said, to come back and now they're coaching and helping other kids, it's really rewarding to see.
Definitely, and I don't think children can have enough positive, adult role models. So it's great that they're, being coached, being supported by somebody who was in their shoes not all that long ago.
That's true. Yeah, it's not that far removed.
Yeah. Now I've heard this from other selectmen. I've heard this from residents. Typically, whenever there's something great in Kingston, it doesn't matter if it's at the library, if it's on the sports fields, if it's at the Council on Aging. Kingston, in many ways, is run by volunteers and by the generosity of community members, either giving their time, talent, financial support. Would it be safe to say that the KYSO runs on volunteers?
Yeah, we're a volunteer-only organization, so most of the folks like myself are parents, and we're working parents, and we squeeze in the time when we can to make the organization run as best as possible, to work with other organizations in the town towards common goals. So it can be time-consuming at times. Again, we have a ton of volunteers behind the scenes that give so much of their time, just between meetings and setting up the events and everything. So. But everybody has a smile on their face when they do it, so it's really nice to see. You don't hear any complaints. You know what the end result is, and it's for the kids. So it's easy to do.
That's great, and I'm sure those folks who are volunteering are getting just as much, if not more, out of the experience.
You would imagine, yeah. I know I am, and I know all the folks that I work with are. But yeah, again, it's nice to see when you go down to the ball field and you see, the smile on the kids' faces. You see the great facilities that we have, and then you go to neighboring towns, and you think in the back of your mind, well, we're doing okay, right? We're doing okay in Kingston. We're providing a nice, safe place for our children to play. So.
And what age? I know my son was 4 when he started with KYSO, but at what age do these programs typically start?
4 is normally the youngest. There are some types of programs that start that early, and you're going through high school really at that point. So there's a wide range, as I mentioned the sports earlier. There's a wide range of ages. There's a wide range of sports. So there's a lot of programs that fit into that mold there.
That's great. And if somebody's watching and they want to volunteer at an event, they want to volunteer as a coach, they want to volunteer at any juncture in some role, what's the best way for them to get involved, and what steps do they have to take in order to find themselves as a KYSO volunteer?
Absolutely. We try to keep it as simple as possible because volunteers are tough to come by at times. We know everybody's time is very valuable. So if you go directly to the website at kingstonyouthsports.org, there's a tab right there where you can click on, and it's very clearly labeled volunteer. So you can go right on there and volunteer, and then we'll get an automated email and somebody will reach out to you and we can walk through the ways in which you can volunteer. Again, it's time, it's money. We know there's a lot of different and a lot of great organizations in Kingston and around that people connect with, right? So a lot of times, money is tough to come by, and donating your money is hard, and we understand that. So if you can't donate money, donating time is just as good.
That's great. And aside from scholarships, aside from field maintenance, and which, I'm glad that you mentioned the condition that our fields are in, because I know, being down there for the first time with my son last year, I was in awe. I mean, it doesn't look like any fields I grew up playing on, and that's not a knock on Marshfield at all, where I grew up, but I mean, they're immaculate. They're in great shape. There's kids on every single one of them. If you go down there on the weekend, I mean, it's this, hub. One, I guess, is a two-part question, and I'll start with this one. What goes into maintaining those facilities? Who's working behind the scenes? Because I can't imagine that rests solely on volunteers, and if it does, I'm even more impressed.
That would be nearly impossible, and that would be very impressive. So the maintenance is run through the rec department. Okay, so the rec department is responsible for maintaining the status of the fields, and they do a wonderful job. Again, Sue at rec, who we work very closely with, does a wonderful job with that. Where KYSO comes in is anything beyond that, capital improvements to the facilities, projects that may come up that are unanticipated. So we work towards that end to support rec in the maintenance of the fields.
So that might answer the second part of the question, which is, what is the KYSO's biggest expense?
Yeah, so again, user fees are certainly number one, right? So user fees for each individual sport, everything runs through the KYSO. And so our goal is to try to keep those user fees as low as possible, as I mentioned before, and as you brought up, certainly with multiple kids, it gets expensive very, very quickly. And then the maintenance of the fields is number two. As you mentioned, there's a large expanse of grass down there, and they're being used constantly, which is a good thing. We are able to rest them a little bit in the summertime, but they're used constantly. There's a lot of play on them. So the upkeep and maintenance is a lot on those fields. So that's where the donations go to.
That's great. And I know we had exchanged emails this past year about involving the KYSO again in the Kingston Waterfront Festival. Mm-hmm. Last year was the first year that the KBA, through the Waterfront Festival, had partnered with KYSO. And I know they were thrilled to write a check to you guys when all was said and done. But having student athletes, having Silver Lake kids that were there collecting donations was great. But the real, I guess the real cool part was we had kids who were there that were talking about how sports impacted them, what they were involved in. The KBA does the same with the music department at the Silver Lake Regional High School, and it's nice that students are also involved to some degree, at least there, in the fundraising, and they're able to share their experience and sort of leverage that to get support.
Absolutely, like you mentioned before, that's part of the giving back that you see. That is really impressive. We really appreciate the partnership with the KBA and other local organizations. When organizations can come together like that for a common good, it's a wonderful thing. So it's very powerful. One of our favorite things is actually reading through those essays of the kids that are applying for the scholarship, because as you mentioned, they're talking about how sports or coaches impacted their lives growing up and what lessons it has taught them moving forward. So it's nice to read.
That's great, and knowing that there is that essay contest, I may be reaching out to you to see if you can have the student who wins and is awarded the scholarship, if they could join us at a Selectman's meeting just to talk to the impact, the experience that KYSO has had on them. I think would be incredible to hear, and just a wonderful opportunity to once again show the town the great work that you guys do.
Absolutely, that'd be very doable.
Well, expect an email from me. I assume that happens closer to graduation time.
Yes, we got to wait a few months for that. So yeah.
Well, I'm sure as with everything, it'll be here before we know it.
Exactly.
Well, Matt, thank you for joining us today. It was great to talk to you, great to learn a little bit more about KYSO, and I certainly hope that the folks at home who know about the organization learn something new, and folks who had never heard of the organization are online soon after watching to figure out how they can support the great work that you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. I really appreciate it. And in closing, I would just like to again mention that there's many different ways that you can help. Right, as I mentioned, there's obviously some fundraising and ways you can help monetarily. But as I said, time is just as important. And I certainly want to take the opportunity to thank all those volunteers who help. Without any recognition, without asking for any recognition, but they give up their time very willingly to help, and all the businesses that help support us. We have a lot of local businesses here in Kingston that have been incredibly generous with sponsorship of the golf tournament and sponsorship of all the fundraising that we have and the sign program, who are always willing to lend a hand and improve things for the kids. So it's very humbling to be part of this.
Well, as a parent whose child is taking full advantage of the work that you guys do, I appreciate it, and I'm sure that the experience that he has on the ball fields this spring will set him up for success later in life.
We hope so, right? Absolutely.